Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we continue our journey towards discussing the rematch of rematches, Mortarion vs Jaghatai during the Siege of Terra. As today we focus on the development and fueling of their rivalry. Now, last time out on Monday we discussed and reminded ourselves why Jaghatai made the decision he did at the start of the heresy, by siding with the Emperor. His reasons for abandoning Russ, heading to Prospero, and the words imparted by Magnus that helped Jaghatai realise it was Horus who had fallen, who had broken his oaths, and not the Emperor. If you missed it, I definitely recommend giving it a listen first before continuing on with this, to really just refresh on Jaghatai's state of mind. Now, a spoiler warning to begin, as today we will be referencing events from across the Horus Heresy, specifically the novels Scars and The Path of Heaven by author Chris Wraight. As always, I really recommend you read the stories for yourself first, without spoilers, as that's the best way to enjoy the lore for yourself. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. Okay, so while Jaghatai's introduction to the heresy was a little different to most of his brothers, having to find out the information for himself, rather than it crashing in on him in betrayal, the emotional impact of the confusion and revelation when it hit was exactly the same. Within the ruins of Prospero, Jaghatai would emerge from his conversation with a shard of Magnus with the answers he sought. Well, most of them at least. As much as he didn't want to choose a side, it was clear from Magnus's words and appearance, the warp had corrupted, and Horus, most beloved of all, had been devoured. And Jaghatai was still reeling from this information, processing it all in his mind, trying to find a way off Prospero back up to his fleet, when Mortarion teleported down in front of him, alongside his death shroud. And it's a tense greeting, given the situation, but a peaceful one, each Primarch acknowledging the other. And Mortarion revealed he's there not for Magnus, but to speak with Jaghatai. And so they did. "So why you?" asked the Khan. "Why not me, brother?" "I assumed it would be Horus. Vanity. He has many things to keep him busy." The Khan's eyes narrowed. Mortarion did not seem too sure of himself. For all the show, all the projected force, he was on shaky ground. "Horus didn't send you, did he?" "That means nothing." "It means everything," said the Khan, studying his brother's reaction. "Magnus told me how the war stands. Some souls are still to be decided on. There were always those of us on the edge. I was one. You were another." Mortarion snorted. "My legion was at Istvan, so put aside any thoughts that we are not committed. The outcome is already determined, and your choice is simple. Preservation or destruction. Come, Jaghatai. You've never even believed in unity. You saw through it even when Guilliman was lecturing us all to tears, back when there were still Xenos standing between our father and the galaxy's edge. Then tell me the alternative." "A galaxy of warriors," said Mortarion. "A galaxy of hunters, where the strong are given their freedom. A galaxy in which there is no dead hand at the tiller, constraining us, lying to us. And all this led by Horus." Mortarion shrugged. "He's the start. He is the champion. the sacrificial king. He may burn himself out to get to Terra. He may not. Either way, there will be room for others to rise. Mortarion drew closer, and the Khan smelled the chemical tang of his armour. You should never have thrown your lot in with the Angel, brother, let alone Magnus. I hated to see it, the three of you, getting dragged in deeper. I always thought you'd break away, see through it, get tired of the hypocrisy. Now, for all the venom and hatred that would be spawned between these two Primarchs here, you can see here that there was none of it at the beginning. Sure, they weren't necessarily fond of each other. However, Mortarion clearly didn't have the same kind of distaste for Jaghatai, like he did Sanguinius and Magnus. Despite those three being allied supporters of psychic use within the legions, Jaghatai's lack of personal ability compared to the other two is clearly something that mattered to Mortarion. And Jaghatai kind of correctly sees why Mortarion is here. That he wasn't sent by Horus at all, with that "it means everything" comment. And it's actually the first crack of the real motive behind why Mortarion is there. Dare I say, a motive of hope. A hope that you can literally feel Jaghatai crushing with his following words. But it has gone wrong, hasn't it? The Khan went on. You have completed your great mission, but there are more sorcerers than ever. Horus has sponsored them. Lorgar has shown them new tricks. If Magnus has not already made up his mind, then he soon will. And then you will be surrounded. You've destroyed the Librarius, only to find the witches are now untrammeled. They played you well. You have done their work for them, and soon you will be dragged into it yourself, as warp-sick as they are. You think that? I see it perfectly. Magnus showed me. Your legion may be free of it for now, but the change will come. You made your pacts, and now they will come to collect. You fool. Mortarion stiffened. His eyes blazed with anger for a second, quickly quelled. You do not. And that is why you came to find me, said the Khan. Who will stand with you against the Ether Weavers now? Angron, what an ally. Kurz, good luck. The Khan gazed at Mortarion disdainfully. You've tasted the fruits of treachery and found them bitter. Don't drag me into your ruin. You're on your own, brother. Mortarion's expression fractured behind the mask, shifting into an enraged snarl, disfiguring rapidly. Silence quivered, and he took a half step forward, his free fist clenching. And this is the heart of it. The moment the feud between brothers would begin. Jaghatai leaving Mortarion to squalor with the sorcery he so despised. And what's more, he mocked him for it. And you can just feel that kernel of hatred forging inside Mortarion as Jaghatai speaks. The bitterness that the Death Lord can never forget. He's really like a dwarf version from the old world of a Primarch in nature. You can just imagine Mortarion of all the Primarchs carrying around his own little book of grudges. The slightest insult being something he'd carry around forever. No, I asked for 2 sugars in my tea, Gilliman. That's it, you're going in the book. But in all seriousness, Mortarion is a Primarch who fosters those wrongs, keeps hold of them, is unable to forget them, and so having Jaghatai essentially reject his appeals here It's something you just know would cut Mortarion deep. It's not something that he would ever forget. And of course with that, their first fight is on. The slightly taller, leaner Jaghatai, the quicker. The broader, solid Mortarion, the stronger. The more durable. And the two trade blows between their verbal jousts. Jaghatai hacking Mortarion's armour to pieces. But the Deathlord just keeping on coming. Unshakable as a mountain, pressing on to the offensive, and the two would be ultimately showered in glass and fumes as one of Mortarion's vials exploded, the two of them still just hacking away at each other. And it all boils down to a final gambit. Jaghatai, exhausted, would make space for a final all-or-nothing strike. A sword blow that would either kill Mortarion or leave himself defenseless. However, rather than attacking again, Mortarion would pause, choosing to return to the Void War that had broken out above between their legions. And we got the key line from Mortarion here that revealed the feud that had indeed begun. Mark it though. This thing is eternal between us now. You and I, our fates bonded in this place. Remember that. It was here that it started. And from there, after quelling the traitor uprising within his legion, Jaghatai would be forced into a 4-year-long hit-and-run war against the enemy, whilst Mortarion would accompany the War Master to Malek. And it was actually a request from Horus in the aftermath of Malek, or let's be honest here, a demand from the War Master, that would see Mortarion return to track down Jaghatai once again. Mortarion sighed. Shall I say it a third time? No more delays. Launch the assault. My legion stands ready. No doubt. For a moment, there was a kind of gratitude in those ruined features. Dawn is accounted for. Russ has been crippled at Alaxes, and wastes himself in dreams of bringing me to his strange form of justice. Korax is a lord of an empty legion, and Ferrus and Vulcan are dead. That leaves only one who could hurt us. Mortarion looked wary, and said nothing. I had resolved to command the Phoenician for this, said Horus. He and Jaghatai always despised one another. I would have enjoyed the sight of Fulgrim teaching the Warhawk a lesson in humility. Then ask him. If you can find him, then you may do so yourself. Horus flexed his talon instinctively, a gesture of impatience. Come, we both know this. Fulgrim cannot be trusted. He performed his one great task on Istvan V, so do not look to him for anything more. Mortarion shook his head, making the jars of toxins hung around his neck rattle. I will not do it. You thirst for vengeance, do you not? He did not best me. And as you can feel here, Mortarion was actually very reluctant to take on this task, to go and lead a campaign against Jaghatai. And you may take that as reluctance, or even fear of facing Jaghatai in battle again. But it's actually not. Mortarion was obsessed with overthrowing the Emperor. Obsessed with it, more than anything else. And it consumed him, completely and utterly, bit by bit. And he is paranoid at this point, at missing out on the final push for Terra, at not being there, at the Emperor's moment of defeat. It's not that he doesn't hate Jaghatai, he absolutely does. It's just his hatred of the Emperor is greater. And he respects Jaghatai enough to know it's going to take a lot of time and work to face him. But the one thing even the corrupted War Master never lost was his charisma. His ability to manipulate and charm his brothers. And he convinced Mortarion that he would wait, that Mortarion would not miss the assault on Terra. And so Mortarion agreed to face Jaghatai again, to kill him for good. The great dents and scores in his armour, made on the crystal dust of Prospero, had not been excised. They were the badges of a contest that had not been concluded. In Mortarion's upper face, something like eagerness had kindled, the desire to finish what had been started. So clearly here, Mortarion did want to face Jaghatai again. He had refused to repair his armour as a reminder of that grudge yet to be finished, of the insult that Jaghatai had given him, so that he wouldn't forget, that it would always be with him, stoking that anger, that desire for retribution. And the Death Guard would indeed track down the scars, attempting to reach the throne world, and they would inflict a lot of damage upon the White Scar fleet, a huge amount of damage in fact. However, the two Primarchs wouldn't come face to face, the scars escaping through a warp rift thanks to the sacrifice of Yasugai, Jaghatai's chief Stormseer and closest friend. But it was another moment and event that fueled the animosity and hatred between the two. Jaghatai had now suffered grievous losses to his legion, thanks solely to Mortarion. And Mortarion yet again would feel the grudge unsettled, a victory torn away in his moment of triumph, replaced with failure, more kindling and fuel added to the fire for both Primarchs. And that's the beauty of the Path of Heaven. It furthers the depths of hatred between the brothers, giving both yet more reasons to hate the other, to want to face them again, all without having the two really coming face to face, having true interaction. I always wanted to kind of see Jaghatai face Fulgrim at the Siege of Terra. However, the way the feud between Mortarion and the Khan was developed, and the clash of styles they both represented, it really was a thing of beauty. It really fantastically drove along that sense of hatred, animosity, a score to be settled between the two. And it began to feel like a destiny that they would meet again. And of course that's what we're going to discuss next. Jaghatai and Mortarion coming face to face within the Siege of Terra. But as always everyone, what do you think? What do you think of the development of Mortarion and Jaghatai's feud? Were you surprised the two ended up facing off like this in the Heresy? Or can you see the reasons for it? The similarity and yet difference between the two? Is that why this story worked so well? These two Primarchs that had similar outlooks, yet important differences too. A perfect combination and clash of styles. And were you expecting to see them reunite upon the throne world? Or perhaps did you expect to see the Khan going against Fulgrim instead? As always everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too? But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.